What if one of the biggest reasons that employees disengage, that teams struggle, and that leaders lose influence, what if it has nothing to do with compensation or strategy or talent? What if people simply don't feel appreciated? Oh man, listen, I can't wait to dive into this conversation today. Come on, let's get started. Welcome to Transformation Station, where we explore leadership principles, personal growth, and practical strategies that help leaders like you and me thrive both personally and professionally. I'm your host, Adrienne Benton, and today we're discussing a topic that impacts every organization, every team, and every leader. That's right. We're talking about appreciation, and I can't wait. I'm super excited because today joining us is the co author of the groundbreaking work inspired by Dr. Paul White's research, The Five Languages at Work. So, together with him, we're going to explore how leaders like us can create healthier cultures, improve engagement, and strengthen trust. But before we get into that conversation, I want to remind you of a few things. Number one, it is time for you to go to Amazon and to grab your copy of A Greater Force Than Failure: Intentional Time with God. This is a journal for anyone like you and me that has ever made a mistake, has ever had what we feel is a failed moment, and we're looking to overcome. It will take you through a 4-step process that will inspire you to renew, to reset, and to move forward. So go ahead and grab your copy today. And then we want to remind you to go ahead and to join the Mobilizing with Impact community. Because when you join our community at mobilizingwithimpact.com, you will get a monthly newsletter. And in that newsletter, there will be leadership practices and principles. You will also be able to stay in touch and learn about all of the events and the programming, the community gatherings that we have virtually. So I want to invite you again to go to mobilizingwithimpact.com. Matter of fact, do it right now. All right. Well, listen, it's time to tell you about our special guest. Dr. Paul White is a psychologist, he's an author and a speaker who makes work relationships work. He has written books, he has written articles for and been interviewed by BBC News, Business Week, the New York Times, Entrepreneur, Fast Company, and Forbes. Dr. White is the co-author of the best-selling book, The Five Languages of Appreciation in the Workplace. Listen, I have my copy. You can't see it, but I got my copy right here, and I have my journal. He's a #1 New York Times bestseller. Yes, which has sold over 600,000 copies and has been translated into 25 languages. And based on extensive research, Dr. White has developed practical ways for leaders like you and I, for employees like you and I, to be able to communicate authentically and to be able to increase employee engagement, lower staff turnover, and have more positive work environments. It is absolutely my honor and privilege to welcome to Transformation Station Dr. Paul White. Dr. White, thank you and welcome for joining us here on Transformation Station today.
Yeah, thank you, Adrian. I'm excited to be with you.
Absolutely. So, in preparation for this episode, I was thinking to myself that often, leaders, when it comes to expressing appreciation, sometimes we're not always as forward with it. Sometimes we struggle in connecting with those who we are leading. Sometimes because of our mindsets, we are tempted not to express appreciation because we feel like if we do, then people won't work as hard. Yet, I know for me, I've found over the years that effective leadership is not just about communicating my expectations, but it's also about understanding what makes my team feel seen, feel respected, and valued. So I want to start off with this question. Why is appreciation so important in the workplace? And why do so many of us as leaders underestimate its impact?
Well, yeah, it's a great two-part question. Why appreciation is important in the workplace, I
Mhm.
think, is because our lives have drifted more and more to have work as the center of our life. You know,
Yes.
in years and decades in the past, it was the family, it was the
Mhm.
community, maybe a church, recreational kinds of things, but our time and energy and focus really is dominated by work. And if we don't feel valued there,
Mhm.
boy, that is a big missing part of our life. And we are people, and one of the things that we focus on is that employees and team members aren't just you know production units. They're not machines just to get things done. We're people. We have
Mhm.
lives and needs, and one of those needs is to feel like we belong and that we're valued. And
Yeah.
it's interesting that while work has become more center, um, we haven't had much modeling through school,
Mhm.
through early work experiences. I mean, in MBA programs and all that, they don't even talk about this, and it's more just about results. And at some point, we start to resent feeling like we're only worth the work that we produce. Yeah, that's part of our job, but we have more value than that as a whole.
Absolutely, 1000%. So many times as leaders, I think we get caught in the trap that compensation or promotion or that yearly recognition that's enough. But
Right.
you touched on something. When people feel seen and feel heard and feel valued, man, that consistent acknowledgement, it goes a long way in the individual and the team feeling like they have something that they can contribute that is worthwhile and valued. And I saw this quote here that says, appreciation communicates you matter here. Transformation Station leaders, we always like to take a moment to pause and reflect on what is resonating with us. And I think this is a good place for you to pause and reflect on your ability to continue to build a culture with your team that shares and shows and models appreciation. Because remember, when you do, you're communicating to your team that they matter there. Now, Dr. White, isn't showing appreciation just about making team members feel good?
Well, that's what a lot of people and leaders think. And yeah, that's one goal. I mean, we want them to know that we think and feel positively about them. But our research with over almost a half a million people shows that when people feel valued, first of
Mhm,
all, they stay around. Now, in the military, that's not as big of an issue as it is in the private sector, but
mhm,
turnover is a huge issue for leaders. And when
mhm,
you lose somebody, there's no guarantee you're going to be able to replace them or replace their experience and talent. So
mhm,
it really goes deeper than that. We want to know that we matter, that
mhm,
we're valued, and
mhm,
that when that happens, we have all kinds of research that we've done. I've got over 15 academic research publications shows that when people feel valued, they stay around longer,
mhm,
uh, they follow instructions better. Uh,
mhm,
they work harder and get more done. There's
mhm,
less conflict among team members. And the
mm.
people that you serve, your clients, have a more positive experience with your team members. And so that all leads to a healthy organization that's getting things done. And so, yeah, we want people to feel good, but it's really far more than that. And that's
Mhm,
why, PepsiCo, Caterpillar, uh, Capital One, all the major companies are moving towards showing appreciation because companies that have team members that feel valued and appreciated outperform those that don't.
mercy. And all of this is so true. Leaders, I know that as Dr. White is talking, you're thinking about your own team right now and how you are where you are on the journey of appreciation, what causes you to feel appreciated there. But I also want you to think also about your coworkers, your peers, and those you lead. How can you make this practical, real, and relevant in the culture that you're in right now? Here's a quote that I found the other day, which says, appreciation isn't about making employees comfortable. It's about helping them feel connected to their purpose and contribution. And that's what Dr. White has been talking to us about in these few moments here. So, Dr. White, let me ask you this. What are the five languages of appreciation?
Yeah.
And why do we as leaders need to understand them? Walk us through this.
Yeah, so actually, Dr. Chapman wrote The Five Love Languages, which is just an international bestseller. It sold 25 million copies and it's in 50 languages. And the five languages of appreciation are the same in name as the five love languages, but they look differently because of the workplace dynamic. So, first one is words of affirmation. It's communicating verbally what you value about someone or what they've done well. And what's important to know is that that's the single largest group. It's about 44% of employees, but it's less than half of employees. So if you only use words, you're missing the mark with over half of your team members. The second language is quality time, and it breaks out generationally that those of us that are a little bit older value quality time, individual time, usually with their supervisor or manager, being able to get input from them or share observations. But for younger team members, those that are like 35 and under, I tell leaders, just because you have a team member that has quality time as their language doesn't mean they want to have time with you. It's more about hanging out with your peers and colleagues at lunch, going out after work together, maybe watching sports together. So it's real important to get the right kind of time. And that's one of the key things in our assessment that we've had 500,000 people take. We identify not only the language, but the specific actions and from whom they want those. Because a key thing that we've learned is, yeah, I want your leaders to do this, but it's really too much weight for leaders to do on their own. You
Yes.
need to teach your team members how to show appreciation to one another. And sometimes they value time with one another more than time with you. Third language is acts of service. And that's not rescuing a low performing colleague. It's really those times that when somebody's got a deadline that they've got to meet and they're working hard and they just need a little help and encouragement to get it done in time. Or when, if you're in a service mode, like, I don't know, at a doctor's office and a whole bunch of patients show up at once, maybe the receptionist is sort of overwhelmed and somebody else steps in and helps out. Quality time, going back to that, that's about 26%. So one out of every four people. Acts of service is 20%, so one out of five. And they sort of live by the mantra that don't tell me you support me, show me. For them, words are cheap. You can talk all day, but if you don't help me out, man, I don't got much time for you. Fourth language is tangible gifts, and that's where a lot of businesses and leaders have sort of gone off the track. That's been sort of the way to show recognition, and companies and even the military spends a fair amount of money on gifts and awards, those kinds of things, but it's less than 10%. So if that's all you're doing, you really aren't missing. And I've done work with the military, and I worked with one unit where I'll say that the company commander told each person to write their own appreciation. He didn't have time to do it. So doesn't feel too authentic, or genuine. And then the last one is physical touch, which is an interesting one in our culture because a lot of people don't touch me, but it's really just spontaneous celebration, a fist bump, a high five, maybe a congratulatory handshake or a pat on the back. But in other cultures, even within the United States, our Latin friends, the Hispanics, and in Europe, the Spaniards and Portuguese, they have a more touchy kind of culture. So they greet each other with a kiss on a cheek and so forth, or a hug. And no touch feels very distant and cool. And so you have to be aware of it. And it's always the recipient who tells you what's appropriate. But we're finding it's important in a lot of different cultures.
I love this. And best practice leaders, as you listen to Dr. White go through each of the languages, but learn how each team member best receives appreciation. This effective communication is not about how you want to communicate, but it's about how they best receive it. And Dr. White, as you're talking, I'm thinking to myself, we also as leaders have to remember that there is no one size fits all approach. You
Right.
really have to take the time to be intentional with getting to know your team, your staff, to know what is most valued. So let me ask you this: how does appreciation influence engagement, retention, and organizational culture? You started talking about it a little bit, but take us a little deeper.
Yeah, so HR professionals, human resource professionals, over the past couple of decades have really focused on recognition and rewards. And I started out, and I'm not an HR person, but we found out that it wasn't working. And I said, what are you guys going to do? And they said, we don't know what to do. So they sort of keep doing the same thing. And um, it, we've got research that, 79, one study shows that 79% of people who leave a job voluntarily cite a lack of appreciation as the main reason they leave.
Mm,
Most leaders think it's for compensation and
mhm,
benefits and maybe promotion, but that's clearly not the case. Otherwise, what we've been doing would work. And employee engagement continues to be at really the lowest it's been in 20 to 30 years, and recognition awards aren't increasing it. So it's really about that personal connection. And you think about it, work has become more central to our lives in work relationships are. And what we found in the old days, I mean, even before I was working much, in the 50s and 60s, people were committed to an organization or a company, that they worked for Boeing or I don't know, Caterpillar or something. Now it's person to person, and people, they stay when they feel connected to one another. And sometimes it's not even the manager that they're connected to; it's their colleagues. And
mm,
so it's really critical. And what happens is a lot of times people are sort of, when they don't feel valued, they're sort of feel touchy and easily offended. Um, and when they do feel valued, they they sort of let things slide off, that they know that you care about them and that you value them, even though maybe there was a comment that they didn't do what they you expected. And
mm,
so it reduces conflict, it
mhm.
increases morale, it increases productivity, and we've just got lots of research that show that it makes a more functional unit. And in fact, in the military, we have research that shows that it increases resilience.
Mm,
That when a team goes through a difficult
together.
task,
Mhm.
uh, that's knowing that the other people value you and what you do and who you are beyond what you do, then you come through that difficult time together in a positive way.
Yeah, I've seen that personally. So true, so true. So talk to us about what are some of the common misconceptions that many leaders have about showing appreciation. Let's try to get rid of some of that stinking thinking that our leaders have right now. What are some of the common misconceptions?
Well, one of the big ones is that it should be public in front of a large group. About half of the population is introverted, that they sort of like to be by themselves, a little more shy. And going up in front of a large group to be recognized is actually a negative, embarrassing experience for them. So it's not getting
Hmm,
the positive that you want. That a lot of people, um, you know, would prefer just a private comment or maybe a note or an email, and that it's not all words. I mean, that's the other thing. We sort of default to words and we don't think about other things like time and acts of service. And one of the things about that, it doesn't take a lot. It's not like they want you to spend an hour a week listening to them, maybe initially, but it the need goes away when they feel truly secure in their relationship with you. So it's not a huge thing. And the other thing is that it's not all the leader's responsibility.
hmm,
One of the things we've done is we create an appreciation at work training kit, and we have, I don't know, probably over 100 chaplains in the military, Navy, Army, Air Force, that have gone through the training. It takes about an hour and a half. You get a kit and be able to use it for a half-day workshop to take teams through and how to show appreciation to each other, because it really is, who knows first when you're having a bad day? I mean, you're the person sitting next to you, not necessarily super bad. And so it's a way to encourage and support people that way. And so we've created an assessment that's, and we actually have a military specific one, because you can get the language right, but if you don't get the actions right, you miss it. And so there's different things about that. And, quality time is an issue in the military as far as fraternization, and so we account for that in it. And the same thing about gifts and awards. And so we've made it sort of culturally contextual for the military. And it's been fun to watch and see it work well.
I love it. I love it. And at the end of this, you'll be able to tell us how we can tap into all of this goodness. But I want to ask you this one, right? We live in a culture right now where people are teleworking. A lot of people are not, working in the office. They're working virtually. So, research shows about half of the workforce is working remotely or hybrid. So how can leaders effectively show appreciation to remote, teleworking, hybrid employees?
Yeah. Well, we actually developed a remote long distance version of our assessment before COVID, and then can continue to develop it, because obviously you can do things verbally, say things in a note or on a call. How do you spend quality time? Well, one of the things we found is that, in a remote relationship, you don't know what the other person's doing now. So to just, ping them, it feels like you might interrupt them. So we encourage people to send an email or text and say, hey, I'd like to connect with you for a little bit, just catch up, when would be a good time? And so then you schedule a video call. And it's really about connecting at a personal level. It's not about, is this job getting done? But, how are you doing? And, what do you think about, I don't know, whatever your sports team is, the Chiefs, or how's the U.S. doing in the World Cup kind of thing. And same thing with acts of service. You may not be able to do it directly, but you may be able to help make it happen on their side of having somebody help out. Same thing with tangible gifts. So it takes a little more effort, to be honest, in a remote setting, but it happens. And really, if you think about it, quality time sort of pops up a little bit more in those kinds of relationships, because they're working often by themselves or not part of the team, and they would just like to connect. But one thing I would say about this that we're finding out is that through research that if at all possible, trying to connect the team in person at least once a year, because there's a qualitative difference between in-person communication and video communication, and chatting. And, some people be pretty quiet on a group call, and you get them in the room with people and they light up, and you say, wow, I didn't realize they were that way. So we really encourage to try to connect. Maybe you can't get the whole team together, but at least meet with people in person once or twice a year, besides the remote.
Yeah, I love that. We recently, I have a remote team, and we recently established having a once a year symposium. It was amazing to see everyone
Cool.
come together. I mean, one, because they had been interacting virtually, when they saw each other face to face, they felt like old friends, right?
Yeah, right.
There was something when everybody left, there was a renewed sense of connectedness, because they had been able to spend a couple of days with the face to face and to really hear each other's voice and see each other and get to know each other on a different level. So I love that as a best practice for our leaders. So I want to ask you this question, right? You say showing appreciation is no longer a nice to, but a have to for organizations. What do you mean by that?
Well, in the past, it's sort of like, if you show appreciation, at a personal level, that's sort of almost like going above and beyond, right? That you're taking some extra effort. Well, partly because of remote work, partly because of the younger generational workers, that they have different expectations, that work isn't as central a part of their life as it has, say, for boomers,
Mhm.
that they need more than that to really feel connected to work. And so it really is becoming sort of um, uh, an act or a practice you need to do among your team to keep them connected, to communicate, and not lose people.
Mhm.
Otherwise, we know that the younger generation tends to move around a little bit more anyway. Um, but you don't want them going after, a couple weeks or 3 or 4 months. That's a lot of wasted time and resources.
Absolutely. So I have two more questions for you. I'm gonna throw in a surprise one. I want to ask you this question. After researching appreciation, right, in thousands of workplaces, I'm curious, Dr. White, what surprised you most about what employees truly need from their leaders?
Hmm. Wow. So I think it's that they want to feel valued beyond work.
Mm,
Because we're people, we're persons, we're made in
yes.
the image of God, and we have value beyond doing things. And so the importance of getting to know them and other talents and skills or parts of their life, like let's say somebody's training for a half marathon, to be able to call that out and say, man, I really just impressed with your discipline to train for this. Or maybe they're a good musician, you don't see that at work, but
Mhm.
you say that is cool that you have that. Or maybe it's a single mom that's just super committed to her kids, and
Mhm.
she does work, but then she gets other things done. And to call that out and say, man, Sophia, I'm just impressed about how much you love your kids. That's going to grab her heart, and she's going to feel a sense of loyalty to you and the job. So I think thinking broader than just about work things and being able to call attention to those is really important.
I love that. I love that. So as we turn the corner on this conversation, I want to ask you this final question. A leader, they're listening today. If a leader's listening today that wants to create a more appreciative culture, where should they begin?
Yeah, just a little background on that. I'm a psychologist, and people don't change really easily,
Mhm.
and so it's important to make things easy for people. And so we've done that, and I think that's been part of our success. So the book, The Five Languages of Appreciation in the Workplace, it's an easy read. I mean, you can pick a chapter. You don't have to read the whole thing all at once. Pick a chapter. We've got it in audiobook and ebooks. But then the assessment, it's practical. You get a report that really shows you directly both how the person wants to be shown appreciation and what's a waste of time. Some people don't want you to stop by and check in on them.
Mhm.
It's like, I got things to do. And then the training course that we've made so that you can run teams and groups through the process. I think that's been uh, fun and exciting to just be able to make it practical so that people can use it.
I love that. Fantastic. So I'm going to ask you one more. I know our time is wrapping up, but I want to ask you to do one more thing for me. Can you please just talk to our leaders, right? Talk to the leader that's listening right now that says, you know what, Dr. Paul, I'm listening to you, and I know that I need to make a change. I need to make an adjustment so that this, appreciation can be a part of our culture. I feel nervous about this restart. Can you just talk to that leader that's listening today, that's on the fence right now, about how to move forward in this way?
Yeah, and sometimes you're like, I got too much to do. I'm barely swimming above ground here. And so one of the things we do is start small. I mean, maybe get the book, or you can go to YouTube. We have a YouTube channel, Appreciation of Work, and see some videos and maybe watch with one or two of your team members that are sort of like your, associates or whatever, and just start small and start with just your team right here, and find out. You can go to the website and buy assessments for each person, or um, that's the easiest. And um, and just start small. And I always say start somewhere with somebody. I mean, if and one of the things we know is if people don't feel valued, they're on the trading block. They're looking to go. So if
Mm.
you got a key team member, you better find out how they want to be appreciated and start with them. And you
Mm.
can start with words, even though you don't know if that's it, because most people aren't going to be offended. But do it privately. Don't
Yeah.
make it a big deal, and then ask them if they'd be willing to fill that. And it's easiest to have a team fill out the assessment versus an individual person. That's a little too intense. Often it's like, okay, let's just do this as a small group and share the results among each other and then move forward that way.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for this masterclass, this leadership masterclass you gave us today. And I know that there are leaders that this is resonating with them and they want to find out more. So, can you just share with us about your resources and what's the best way to engage and tap into those?
Yeah. So the best website is appreciationatwork.com. It's the word at appreciation at work, and it's got information about the book, about the assessment, about the training, and they can write me as well at paul@drpaulwhite.com. And I'll send you, Adrian, a sample report of the military assessment as well as a group summary so they can see what that looks like. Um, People want to see what they are going to get before they spend money on it. So it's been well received, and I think that'll help them get them going.
Absolutely. Thank you so much again. This has been absolutely amazing. Very much value added content, and you have given us a lot of food for thought and keys to be able to move forward. Thank you so much again for joining us today, Dr. White.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Wow. Today's conversation reminds us that leadership is not only about achieving results, truly, it's about valuing our people. We learned today through Dr. White that appreciation is not a soft skill, it is indeed a leadership skill. And you heard him over and over again say that when people feel seen, when people feel valued, when we feel understood, that they engage differently, they contribute differently, they grow differently. Whoa. Everybody that's listening, I want you to remember this. People may forget what you said, they may forget what you did, but they rarely forget how you made them feel. And I want you to think about this powerful reflection. And I'm inviting you to leave us comments in the chat. Here's the reflection. I want you to think about the last time you truly felt valued at work. What happened and what did that experience teach you about how people need to be led? Go ahead, whether you're watching this live or you're watching this on the replay, I want you to go ahead and leave comments for us, or you can even send me a DM. And I promise in future episodes, I will share your comments. We want to hear from you because that's the kind of community that we're in. This episode, I know that it encouraged you. So be sure to subscribe to Transformation Station Leadership Podcast. Share this episode, this particular episode. I need you to share it with 5 leaders in your network. And be sure to join us again weekly for another conversation that is designed to help you lead, to help you grow, and to help you transform. So until next time, lead with purpose, lead with appreciation, and keep on moving forward.